My name is Chef Yves and I'm here in the Greener Villages Learning Kitchen today with Amy Chenard, owner of Short Woman's Kitchen. Welcome, Amy, and thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Perfect. So today, Amy, you're going to show us how to make a lovely cookie recipe, but before we do that, tell me a little bit about Short Woman's Bakery. Tell me how you got started.
Well, COVID happened, of course, and I went from working 15, 20 hours a week to 40 to 60 hours a week because we were short-staffed, and it was a grocery store, so we remained open. And then we had to start wearing masks at work.
Okay.
And I'm unable to wear masks, and I have an allergy to them.
Oh, that's too bad.
So I was staying home, and I bake.
So it's a great little pastime that turned into...
to something a little more. I bake, but I don't eat it, so...
Well, and that's the perfect baker, someone who's not going to eat your supply, I guess.
Yeah, so someone said, well, you should sell it. So I said, okay, and decided to set up a Facebook page and didn't know what to call it. My daughter calls me Short Woman. And so I started calling it Short Woman's Kitchen.
Well, that's fantastic. It's a name that sticks and it catches. And so you said that you started off selling through Facebook Marketplace and all that stuff, and you created a little bit of a following. Yeah. Do you still do that, or are you anywhere else now?
No, I just I do that when people ask for certain orders and stuff, and I'm down at the Northside Creators Market now every weekend.
Perfect. Well, that's fantastic. Tell us about, you say you do some baking, but what do you have to offer down at Market?
I have homemade bread. I have rolls. I do brown bread, raisin brown bread. I do cinnamon rolls. I do cookies, squares, sweets, truffles.
Perfect. So, Amy, are you did you go to school for this, or is this just something that you enjoy doing?
Oh, no, this is something I enjoy doing. From my grandmother to my mother to me. My kids do it now, so. So
generational baking. So if you want good old-fashioned grandma's type stuff baking, then Short Woman's Bakery is where you need to go.
Yeah.
Right on.
Exactly.
So, Amy, you said you sell at the Northside Creators Market. How long have you been there, and how do you find it different than just selling behind the wall of Facebook?
Oh, behind the wall of Facebook, I can sit in my jammies and answer people, but I've been at the market for almost 3 weeks now.
Okay.
And, a lot of people, they, oh, bread, fresh bread, and then I do like cinnamon biscuits and cookies and stuff. So it's nice to see people smile when they see certain things.
Absolutely.
So that's always a good feeling.
This time of year is prime time for bakers and shops like you. Do you have anything special? Are you going to be offering any kind of festive sweets, or are you just sticking to the same old, same old?
Yeah. No, I will be doing some Christmas baking and Christmas treats and stuff, and I'll have it at the market. Like peppermint patty season is what I call it. So peppermint patty season has started. Peanut butter balls. You have different cookies and squares that people expect. Party pinks.
Party pinks, mocha cakes.
Yeah, mocha cakes. Almond fingers, just different things. I do like Christmas crack is what everybody calls it. Yep. So you spruce that up a bit. I do like a Christmas bark as well. Okay. So it's like a peppermint bark and has some treats and stuff in it.
Any traditional kind of thing? Are you going to add like your own tradition? Like I know that my grandmother used to make a special candy every Christmas. Do you put that into your display, saying this is a Short Woman's signature? No one else can get what I make here.
I don't do that.
You don't?
I don't, because
it's all good, right?
It's all good, and people write recipes. People write recipes down for other people to read. Yeah. Recipes are to share.
Absolutely.
So nothing specifically for one person type thing. So
I think I was alluding to more like Big Seb's has their cookie, and that's their signature cookie. I was wondering if the Short Woman has their signature piece? Why should, other than those lovely offerings that you have, what's the one thing that'll bring you to market every week from Short Woman's?
Probably cinnamon rolls, cinnamon biscuits.
Yeah, no, they are good. They're fantastic. I can vouch for it. They are. Your biscuits are nice because that's what I grew up on was the biscuits. But your cinnamon rolls, holy smokes, they're huge and they're sticky. And I heard one vendor say it's a meal. I couldn't eat anything else, which is great.
My mom likes cinnamon rolls.
Okay.
So over the years, she's critiqued them.
Okay.
So now when I give them to her, she just says thank you.
Oh, wonderful. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I know the bottom lines are getting tighter and tighter for vendors like well, you and me. We'll say it. And we don't want to pass that on to the customer, but sometimes we do have to pass that on to the customer. Is there anything that you can do or have you been doing to kind of not diminish your quality, but be able to kind of keep that into a price point where everyone can make it affordable?
Yeah. Well, I just started at the market, so I don't really know how much I need or how much I don't need. But what I used to do before was if I got in the mood to bake, I would bake and then I would post it to sell it. And sometimes it would sell and sometimes it wouldn't. So the key is to bake how much you need. Better to have not quite enough than way too much.
Well, better to sell out so people come earlier the next time. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Not that I'm going to run out of everything, but it's just be aware of how much there is. Aftermarket, I put up a little sale if there's anything left, and people get stuff discounted, so everything's covered for me, and everybody gets to enjoy.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. But yeah, nothing though. I know that. I know that some bakers have gone from using butter and gone down to like a 20/80 spread just to cut costs and hoping that it won't affect flavor. Have you gotten to that point yet, or
you haven't gotten to that point yet? Because if it's margarine, you taste it.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. And I'm super fussy when it comes to cookies and baking.
Yeah.
So, and I can pick that up right away.
And some recipes, you can use shortening.
Yeah.
But in a lot of recipes, you can't. You need to have the real thing because it's the taste of butter that people want.
It's the flavor, absolutely. And we'll go over that. Today you're going to be making us a lovely chewy brownie cookie, which is fantastic, and it uses shortening.
It does.
So we'll talk on that and why it's better to use shortening in that recipe and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll be right back with Amy to make these lovely chewy brownie cookies right after these messages. Welcome back to Easy Eats. My name is Chef Yves and we're in the Greener Villages Learning Kitchen with Amy Chenard, owner of Short Woman's Kitchen, and we're about to make some lovely
chewy brownie cookies.
Chewy brownie cookies, awesome. So let's get started. What do we need for these chewy brownie cookies?
Chewy brownie cookies, we need flour, eggs, cocoa, brown sugar, vanilla, salt, and soda. So
we're using shortening today.
We are.
Because
it holds its structure better than the margarine or the butter do in the recipe. Shortening, it spreads the cookie, but it doesn't make a cake out of the cookie.
So it'll keep that fudgy texture that you're looking for in these cookies.
It does.
And there's a good reason why shortening is the better option.
Yes.
Let's get started. How do we start making these cookies?
Okay, start making the cookies. We put all of our dry ingredients together.
Okay.
So we have our flour, and we do our cocoa.
Now, mixing the dry ingredients together instead of putting them one at a time inside the wet.
They're all mixed together better. Almost, it's like having a cake batter.
Okay, yeah.
When you buy a cake batter, all your ingredients, you just do the wet and throw it in. And this way, everything's mixed all.
So you don't get a salty cookie or a cookie that's got too much soda in it and things like that, right?
Yeah. And we'll add our salt.
Now, if you wanted to use this with butter, because that's what you have, and you use salted butter, then you could probably reduce the amount of salt going into the cookie, right?
You probably could, but you would also have to reduce the amount of butter that would go in as well. Otherwise, you'll have pancakes. Maybe?
A pancake, so
brownie pancake instead of a.
Just goes to show that baking is a science.
It is.
Absolutely, and you need the right ratios to make things come out correctly.
Cooking, you taste as you go. You add a
Absolutely.
little bit of this, you know, you have a basic, okay, I need to put this, need to put that in, but you're tasting it as you go. Baking's kind of like science. You know, you're in the lab, you have your recipe, you have to.
But at the same time, and like I said, that's why I'm in awe of people like you, Short Woman's Kitchen, that kind of, it turns into an art as well, because you're getting these recipes. The recipe you sent me was just a card, and it was like my grandmother's recipe card, and that had no scientific pull together. It was just kind of, you know it. So
This
you're
is-
kind
this
of like
here.
a wizard slash chemist, like an alchemist, I guess
Yeah.
is the best way to put it. Is
You have to know the consistency of stuff as you're mixing it, you know.
absolutely.
You're thinking, oh, that's not quite right. That needs a little bit more of whatever, you know. Because with baking, it's a lot of raw ingredients. You're not going to just taste and,
No, absolutely.
yeah.
So let's keep
All
on
right.
going.
This is what I have my whisk for.
Okay.
So with that, I just mix it together. And you'll mix it until all of it's mixed together. And the thing with cocoa, it likes to stick to the bottom of the bowl. So as you're going, once you think you have it all mixed together, then you check the bottom of your bowl.
Okay. Now, could you use a sifter and sift all your ingredients together?
You
as well?
could, yeah. But you know, I don't think of my sifter. It's under the counter and my whisk is on top of my counter.
Yeah, no, valid point.
There, and there's no cocoa on the bottom.
Lovely.
So that's all mixed together. So that's all ready to go. Now we're going to do the wet ingredients together. Always unwrap everything when you go to cut it. Some people look at the wrapping and, okay, there's 2/3 and they cut, but you have a chance of getting the foil or the wrapper or whatever.
Well, that's a good point.
In it?
And you don't want to have any foreign objects.
Exactly.
Lovely.
There we go.
So we've got our shortening.
We have a shortening, and you want to make sure that it is soft and creamy before you add anything else into it,
Okay.
just because you don't want chunks of shortening in your cookie. You want it nice and smooth.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and when you add everything else in, you want to make sure that it's just going to blend easily. Now, if you have a hand mixer,
Well, that's it. You can use a
yeah,
mixer.
or a
It makes-
stand mixer, yeah, I would put it in and mix it up, and then scrape the bowl, mix it again until you don't have any chunks left.
So putting your sugar into it's called the creaming, and the
Yeah.
creaming stage of your cookies is basically what creates all the structure
Yeah.
in your cookie, right?
Yes.
So, Amy, if I would just kind of add everything in together at once, kind of like I was making pancakes sort of deal, and then just, would it turn out the same?
The taste would be good,
Yep.
but it wouldn't turn out the same because the structure would be different as you add things. You're building the structure.
Absolutely.
And if you add in everything too fast to hurry it along, it's not going to stay together the
So
way it's supposed
you're
to.
not going to get a cookie, you may get one big cookie.
You might get one cookie pizza.
One cookie pizza.
All right, we're going to add our brown sugar.
Now, could you add white sugar to this recipe, or does this affect the flavor of the cookie itself?
The brown sugar kind of gives it that melty, you know,
That unctuousness that you're
Yeah.
looking for in that? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
it becomes a brownie, not even a brownie cookie, it's just chocolate cookie if you add the white sugar.
Okay.
This kind of gives it the ooey gooiness, so.
When's the last time you made cookies by hand and not with the mixer?
Last night with my grandsons
Fun.
when they
Yeah.
showed up.
And I always find that fun too. When I make cookies with the kids, or with any class that I teach, we always go, you got to learn how to do it by hand before you can start using the power tools, is what I always
Exactly.
say. So, and it is fun, and it's that kind of sensory, textural, you know how it feels, and
Yeah.
what it should look like, smell like is a lot easier, right?
Exactly. All right. We're going to add our eggs one at a time.
Okay.
And we're going to break it into a separate bowl, so no shells.
I also find if you break it into a separate bowl as well, if the eggs aren't any good, which is highly unlikely, but you never know, you're not ruining the whole batch. You know, you're just
Exactly.
going to throw the egg out from that bowl and
Yeah.
as you go.
I always break the yolk and give it a little stir before I put them in. It's like you chase the egg around in a bowl by itself instead of chase it around in a large bowl.
In a large bowl, absolutely.
Yeah.
So now when you're going to cream all of this together, or most of it up, you're going to mix that till it's nice and fluffy, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah. But a lot of time with brown sugar, you'll get clumps. So you just make sure you break those down.
Now, a good tip for that, not to get clumps in your brown sugar, is always keep a nice, either a terracotta disc in your thing, or the heel of a piece of bread.
Yes.
And that'll just absorb and grab all that moisture, and then you don't get those chunks that we're dealing with here today.
And add the vanilla. So then your dry ingredients, you put them into your wet ingredients. I tend to do it all at once for this recipe. You want all of it mixed in. You want to make sure there's no raw ingredient showing, but you don't want to overmix either.
So if you overmix, you get a flatter cookie or a tougher cookie?
You do. You get a flatter cookie. They'll spread out way too fast. Yeah. So then you have like a wafer cookie with chocolate chips in it.
Okay, yeah. So mixing it and putting a little bit of air in there is really important.
It is, yeah. But always patience, because just when you think things aren't coming together, they start to come together.
So it's a nice thick batter, isn't it?
It is.
So could you, after it's been made, can we like roll this into a log, set it in the freezer, and then kind of take it out and cut it?
You could, because I have scooped them out and froze them and then put them in baggies to take out so many at a time. There we go. So they do freeze well, and you can bake them and freeze them as well.
Oh, well, that I know, but yeah.
Yeah.
We just like to, like at home, and it's always a great idea, is just kind of make your batches of cookie, make a little bit more than you want to bake, and that's what we do at home. And then I freeze everything into a log, and then I keep them. So when we want cookies, I just pull out a log for lunch, and then the kids have cookies.
Exactly. See, I don't have kids at home anymore. So.
So if they're there, they're eating.
Yeah, when kids were home, if cookies were made, cookies were gone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then the last thing is you mix in your chocolate chips. And you just want to make sure it's through the whole batter.
Yeah, you don't want one cookie to have more chocolate chips than others, yeah.
Well, and if you do, then you have to eat it so the other cookies don't get jealous, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And it's one of those recipes you can't double it.
Okay, so.
Yeah, it's one of those recipes that when you want to make some, you have to make it a batch at a time. And with anything, you know, it changes.
Well, that's it. With baking, that's what it is you have to understand the ratios. And you can go right into, when I was going to culinary school, you could double the recipe, but it's all about percentages.
Yes.
So you'd have to add your percentages up to, and that's a whole day in itself on explaining that.
It is. You have to change other things, you know. All right. I think we have chocolate chips all the way through.
And I've got a scoop for you here, too. So what size do you make? Is this too small, or do you need a bigger one?
Nope. It all depends how big a cookie you want.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this will make a standard cookie,
yep,
like a regular size cookie.
And that's 1.5 tablespoons.
Yeah, it works perfectly.
The way you were building all of this and stuff like that reminds me of cooking with my grandmother. So we kind of had the recipe structure, but then we're like, oops, I forgot a little bit of water. So we'll add a little bit of water. Oops, we forgot the chocolate chips. Let's add some chocolate chips. So it's kind of nice to sit and kind of reminisce. And I've worked with a lot of short women. When I used to go to bakery, I used to help out in the old Italian club kitchens, and all the Italian nonnas were all short women. And I used to love playing, and it is you're learning from generation to generation. I think that's what's really important. And baking is where it starts.
It is.
There we go. We've got our cookies being, how many do you typically put per tray?
Well, a large tray like this, I would do like 15.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they spread, but they don't spread crazy.
Well, I guess that was my question, was how do they spread?
Yeah. It'll spread out into like a regular size cookie, and then it just kind of has a nice little lift on it.
And you got that little bit of a bubble on it.
Yes.
So do you press these, or do we leave them just the way they are?
Leave them as they are.
Now my next question is, are we going to see any of these at market this weekend?
Of course.
Fantastic.
Of course.
All right, so we're going to set these at,
375.
okay, and for how long?
7 to 9 minutes. Everybody's oven is different.
Absolutely.
Always start at 7. Keep an eye on them, then you know.
That's it, yeah. You can always put them back in, but you can't take them out if you put
That's
them in
right.
too long.
Yeah.
So we'll just set these in the oven. We'll set our timer for 7 minutes.
There we go.
So we've got a little bit of cookie dough left over. We can either grab another pan and throw them in the oven, or we can just kind of save this in the freezer for later.
We can.
We can call it the angel share or the chef share or whatever
There
you
we go.
want.
Yep.
And then we'll be back right after these short messages with some nice hot chewy cookies. Welcome back to Easy Eats again. I'm with the Short Woman's Kitchen's Amy Chenard, and I think our cookies are ready. We're going to take them out and see how they made out. Oh, these look fantastic, Amy. Here we go. So these right here, we've got to let them sit before we take them off, don't
Take
we?
2 minutes.
For a couple minutes?
Yeah.
Reasoning behind that?
They're ooey and gooey, and you
Little soft?
little soft. You don't want them to fall through the cooling rack. You want them to.
To just stay, exactly. Cookies are still molten. They need time to just set and cool a little bit. Speaking of setting, cooling, and stuff like that, market is, we do it 2 days a week.
Yes.
How much time do you spend to get ready for those 2 days a week?
I spend probably about 30, 35 hours between Tuesday and Friday, getting everything ready and stuff like that. As long as I don't sell out on stuff Saturdays, I don't have to do anything Saturday night. Sometimes I go home Saturday and do a little bit of baking, but yeah.
So it is almost a full-time job.
It is. It is.
And
Anybody who works full-time and does the market, props to them because...
No, it is. It's always, I mean, you're doing a multitude of stuff.
Yeah.
I would say that, yeah, I do work full-time and we do market, but again, I'm not a team of one.
Yeah.
I've got my family involved, so we are able to, but you're right. There's a lot of time planning, a lot of time understanding how much you need for market.
Yeah.
And again, Amy, you're probably just going to get busier and busier and busier once people find out about you.
And then I'll have to pull my family in on it too.
There you go. These are ready, so all we can do is you pull them off, you set them on a cooling rack,
Exactly.
and then you said you can freeze these after?
You can.
That's
You
if
can
there's
freeze them.
anything left after it's
Yeah.
all said and done, right?
Yeah, usually not much left of brownie cookies. Usually they go pretty good. These are my youngest daughter's favorite. But if I'm baking cookies for my mom, I'll bake my cookies in the last pan. I'll leave in just a minute or two longer because she likes that little extra crisp on them.
And that's something else we can mention too. It's suggested times on those recipes. So if you want a nice softer cookie, you leave it in less time.
Exactly.
And if you want something that's a little bit crispier, a little crunchier, something that you want to dip into your tea or your coffee or your milk, then you leave it in a little bit longer just so you have that crisp that you're looking for.
Yes. Yeah.
Those look fantastic, Amy. Thank you so much for joining me today, telling me a little bit about Short Woman's Kitchen, and we are excited to have you at the market. And I'm sure the Frederictons are excited to have a new bakery that they can enjoy fare from. So thank you so much. And
Thanks for inviting me.
I'm going to enjoy this cookie.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.